will begin the video with my review, then go into the theories. Timestamps can be found in the pinned comment as usual. So let's begin with my review. This episode was amazing, and I feel like as long as the witches are in it, I will have a generally positive reaction. I don't think this episode was as strong as the last one, however, so I'm going to try to look at it with a non-Coven stand's perspective. Michael unsurprisingly passed the test of the Seven Wonders as Cordelia slowly shows signs of her demise. Ms. Meade kills Cheyenne Jackson's character, John, which is interesting because Cheyenne is a main cast member this season and is now dead after his second episode in the season. So either his main cast member listing is purely contractual, or John isn't truly dead, or Cheyenne might have another character. Personally, all of his characters so far in American Horror Story have been kind of boring to me. No offense to Cheyenne, but none of his characters have clicked with me. None of them made me absolutely need to see more of them. So I'm not at all saddened by his death, and I am glad that they're still incorporating Ms. Meade into the episodes in an even bigger way than she was in the first few. But I still would like to know how Ms. Meade came into possession of Michael and what happened with Constance, which I believe will be explored in the next episode, Return to the Murder House. But back to this episode. Fan favorite Misty Day is back, and I really enjoyed her personal hell and Michael's chat with the demons there. It was also eerie and unnerving and overall well done. Stevie Nicks returns to sing a song, but I hope this isn't all that she does this season, otherwise this was purely fan service. But I am a fan, and I enjoyed it, so I guess it works. The little tease at the end where Cordelia sends Madison to the murder house, and Chablis eavesdrops and now gets to come along for the ride. I would like to know how Cordelia found out about the murder house and how Michael was born there, though. That was glossed over, and I would like to know how she figured that out. The next episode is going to be legendary. We've got the return of Constance, the return of the Harmons family, Tate Langdon's going to return, and so on and so forth. As far as I know, the murder house scenes will only be in Return to the Murder House, but it is very possible that it could carry on into episode 7. So we may not end up seeing all of them in episode 6 if they decide to continue with the murder house flashbacks further than episode 6. But episode 6 is called Return to the Murder House, so I suspect all these characters will be in episode 6. I'm very excited to see Chablis and Madison have scenes alone together, but I also hope their shared extraness does not distract from our first return to the murder house. Coco's power being gluten detection was fitting and funny. However, if this is all Coco amounts to, then she may just end up being a pointless character, aside from allowing Mallory to escape the apocalypse. However, Cordelia would have just found another way to save Mallory if Coco really wasn't a witch. I just hope they do make her more powerful, or at least mean something other than a punchline. They still haven't gotten back to Brock, who is still alive, but then again we haven't really gone back to the 2021 storyline since Cordelia resurrected Coco, Dinah, and Mallory. Speaking of Dinah, where does she play in? The floor above me has been creaking nonstop, and I've waited too long, so I'm just gonna go on. So if you hear creaking in the background, just pretend it's on purpose. Happy Halloween. Speaking of Dinah, where does she play in? I'm dying to know Dinah Stevens' backstory. Does she connect to Marie Laveau's voodoo? I know Angela Bassett said she wasn't going to do Apocalypse, but wouldn't it be cool to see previous enemies, being the Coven and Marie, join forces to take down the Antichrist? Marie Laveau is such a great character, and it would be foolish for them not to utilize her. Also, why are they paying Nan Dust? Cordelia says she got Michael to bring all of her girls back, but not even a single mention of Nan was made. Nan would have been able to tell if Michael was evil, just like Misty, and would obviously be a big help to the witches. It makes no sense that there has not been a single reference to her despite her being a major part of Coven. I know she technically didn't go to hell, but her whole afterlife thing with Papa Legba was a little bit unclear to me. However, even if she's having a happy afterlife in heaven or whatever, it does not excuse the fact that she hasn't even been mentioned. They better bring her back or at least mention her, otherwise I might riot. I did enjoy the Seven Wonders sequence though, although it was a little short given that it's been such a major plot point in the past, but it's also fitting for it to be short given that Michael had no trouble with it at all. They went back to the corny silent film montage, and I loved the whole sequence. Overall, this episode feels like a teaser for this next episode, but I'm not complaining. It was directed and written very well, and I enjoyed every minute. It is a necessary episode, although it might be a tad bit predictable. In the grand scheme of things, it may end up being considered a filler episode, but I still enjoyed it. Overall, I give this episode 8.5 Michael Langdons out of 10. Now let's get on to theories. So this one's a little obvious, but my initial thought is Cordelia isn't weakening due to Michael becoming the Supreme. She is weakening because Mallory is rising to the point where she may become the Supreme. Obviously, Michael cannot be the Supreme because he's the Antichrist, not even a warlock. He supersedes Cordelia in power because he is a satanic entity, something completely different from witches and warlocks. So perhaps the second half of the season will deal with Mallory versus Michael, given that she is quickly gaining power. Now let's look at the fan theories on Reddit. Writer Y1 on Reddit says, I really don't think Coco has a power. I think Cordelia accepted her because she knew it was a way of getting Mallory into the outpost and to save her from Michael's apocalypse / witch hunting. I think this theory is interesting, which would explain why Coco may not be really even a witch, and it would explain why she was accepted into the coven despite not being proven to be a witch. If Cordelia just saw her as a way to save Mallory from the witch hunt, it makes sense. However, Cordelia is so powerful she could have found any way without having to bring Coco into this. Still interesting to think about how Coco will play into everything in the grand scheme of things, because right now she does not seem very powerful or important. Okay, so I just thought of this while editing. I'm just gonna kind of bounce off of this theory that I just talked about. So I do think it's interesting that we're 5 episodes in and we still don't really know who the cooperative is. We assumed Michael Langdon was a part of it because he's the only known officer aside from Miss Mead and Venable. But what if the cooperative really isn't run by Michael Langdon, but instead is secretly being influenced by Cordelia? Now, I'm not saying that Michael Langdon has absolutely nothing to do with the cooperative. Perhaps he is being manipulated by Cordelia, or perhaps he really wasn't a part of the cooperative. He just portrayed himself as a part of the cooperative in order to infiltrate Outpost 3. Anyway, it would make sense for Cordelia to be a part of the cooperative, or the mastermind behind the cooperative, because in episode 1, Coco's father, who we see again in this episode, calls Coco after their whole emergency systems went off and basically confirmed the apocalypse was happening. But he also told her about the cooperative. See, Coco didn't buy the ticket herself. The ticket was actually bought, or at least acquired, by her father, and her father basically tells her that a car is coming to take her to the outpost, or take her to a plane where she can go to basically Outpost 3. Coco didn't necessarily know about the cooperative or the outpost or any of this. It was all her father. Cordelia, as we see in this episode, has met her father, and Coco says that her father gave a sizable donation to the coven. So to Cordelia, she now sees that this man has money and influence and is willing to throw his money at anything to help his daughter. So Cordelia knows this bit of knowledge, and once she starts sensing all this stuff about Michael Langdon and the apocalypse, she perhaps formulates this plan with the cooperative, or sees the cooperative and kind of influences it. I'm just kind of brainstorming right here. I haven't written this down. But so she sees all that, and that is why she decides to let Coco into the coven so she can befriend Mallory. And so when they do the identification spell, they really just turn Mallory into Coco's personal assistant, and thus Coco would be obliged to take her on the plane that her father sent. But really, the whole cooperative is really just Cordelia. Whoever was behind the cooperative seemed like a huge question in the first few episodes, and then now, once the witches are here, we kind of forgot about it. We know magic is obviously involved because the plane was flying by itself. It very well could have been Cordelia behind it trying to save Mallory. And I guess the Gallants were kind of a package deal when you get Coco, but that doesn't explain Timmy and Emily. And those two characters do seem pointless right now, so I really do hope they actually mean something in the end and they come back in some capacity once we go back to the current year. Because think of it, Timothy and Emily are the only two people that don't work with this theory. Stu and Andre make sense as to why they're in the outpost because they came with Dinah, who was chosen by Cordelia. Evie Gallant and Mr. Gallant make sense as to why they're in the outpost because they came with Coco and Mallory. And the only other two purples that don't make sense and have no other relationship those who were resurrected are Timothy and Emily. And surprisingly, these are the only two that were given their own backstories. Although Emily's was understated, and I have a whole video on Emily, but her backstory wasn't as elaborate as Timothy. But they went into so much effort to give you Timmy's backstory and to show that he was taken by these people saying his DNA was superior. So it has to mean something. Initially, I thought he was a warlock and Emily was a witch, but they weren't resurrected. So it doesn't quite make sense with this theory, but even without this theory, these things still don't make sense in the season, so they should be addressed once we get back to the present day Outpost, and by present day I mean 2021 Outpost. But this season seems to be going full steam ahead with the crossover elements, so it's kind of hard to know if they'll actually go back to these characters that they introduced this season, but I do hope they do go back to them just to tie up these loose ends, and I think this theory would be a great way to do that, because to me it makes sense aside from Emily and Timothy. But let me know if you think this theory is true. I've kind of just rambled on about it for a while, so I haven't really thought about it in my head long enough like I usually do before telling you guys my theories. Maybe add on to this theory or have a completely different theory as to why I'm wrong. Whatever, let me know in the comments. This next theory is from Looney Sheep on Reddit. She says, I'm really worried about Misty. Michael brought her back only to prove to Cordelia that he can. But what's going to happen to her now? Is he going to use her as leverage? He made some deal with her to get her out of hell, and now I'm scared to even think of what that deal was. I also found this interesting. Obviously, Michael is the Antichrist, so he could go into hell probably and get whoever he wants, but if he was really making a deal with those demons, it does not look good for Misty Day. Misty herself said she's lost her footing, she may not be as powerful as she was in Coven, and I do think that something that may end up happening this season is Michael slowly taking away the witches he brought back from Cordelia. That could lead to a lot of emotional scenes and raise the stakes of this season, because obviously we've seen all these characters being resurrected, so it's kind of like, how is there even any stakes if they can just bring whoever they want back to life? But if Michael can easily take away Queenie and Madison and Misty, it kind of raises the stakes for Cordelia a little bit. So we are officially halfway through the season, and it's only going to get better from here, I hope. This next episode is really going to be the Murder House Coven crossover, in my opinion, because obviously the only Murder House crossover element so far is Michael Langdon and the brief appearances of the Rubber Man, but this next episode we go back to the Murder House and we have the flashbacks. This next episode has the potential to supersede any episode of American Horror Story. I already think a couple of these episodes are within the top 5 American Horror Story episodes in history, but that's just my opinion. But this 6th one has very high potential, and I don't want to overhype it, but they're kind of overhyping it with all these returning characters. And I do think this next episode has the ability to be a 10 out of 10, and I'm very excited, and I can't wait to review the rest of the season with you guys. Be sure to let me know what you guys think in the comments, do some theories. I have some really cool videos that I'm going to be posting soon. am just in the middle of midterms, so I've kind of not put out as many as I have been, but I have 2 videos that are almost done. So subscribe if you don't want to miss that, leave a comment, leave a thumbs up and all that. And before I go, I would like to thank my patrons, Jesse Reel, Keiki Art, and Liz Dunham. If you would like to join my Patreon and receive exclusive videos, early access to every video, and get your name credited in every video, among other perks, visit patreon.com/RyanMurphyVerse and join us for as little as $1 a month. Follow the channel on Twitter at RyanMurphyVerse as well for more updates, and I will start using Twitter more as well, I promise. Also, I'd just like to thank you guys for 4,000 subscribers. It really means a lot to me, and can't wait to continue to discuss this show with you guys, and it's been really fun, and I thank every one of you that has clicked the subscribe button. So thank you, and I will see you soon. Bye.